This is Dan Rogers, your host on We the People Town Square, coming to you from the center of the universe, the high plains of Texas, near the headwaters of the Prairie Dog Town fork of the Red River. Today is January the 18th, 2024. Today we're here with Jamie Haynes, who's running for House District 86. Jamie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let's start off by telling the voters of House District 86 a little bit about you and why you've chose to run for state representative.
Okay. A little about me. Well, grew up in Central Texas, McCullough County. My dad's a rancher, still ranching. My mom's a pharmacist, retired now. Great childhood growing up there in a small rural town. Went to college in Lubbock, Texas Tech University. Majored in management information systems, which people always say, what does that mean? It just basically means you're a computer programmer. There is a computer science major, but MIS was in the business building. And so you got a lot more of the business classes. After that, I got married to JT Haynes. He's from McLean, Texas. His dad had ranched, and then he's a pastor now. He's the pastor of the First United Methodist Church there in McLean. And his mom is a CPA. She drives into Pampa and has had a business for years. She's kind of in the process of retiring, but not really. She goes back and forth. But we met at Tech and fell in love and got married. And he had a couple of job opportunities first, one down Austin direction and one here in Amarillo. And so we ended up moving to the Panhandle to Amarillo. I got a job at Maxor Pharmacies, worked there for a couple of years, moved on to Anderson Merchandisers, was again still application development, quality assurance, an analyst. Was at Anderson for over 8 years, went part-time, and opened a photography studio. Kind of got to stretch my creative legs. Really enjoyed having my own small business. You know, when you do that, you do everything. You clean the bathroom, you do the accounting, you do the website, customer service, all the things. So it was a great experience. About that time, my husband, he had been with Micro Beef, Microchemical, and then Bear Animal Health, and he had started a real estate business on the side. And it took off, and he was like, hey, I need your help. So we marketed and successfully sold the business, and I came over to Triangle. And he was still with Bear part-time, but it slowly built up. And I absolutely loved being a realtor. Kind of the same business as owning your small business with a photography studio. It's all about the customer service, truly, and making the client happy and working with people, really. It's about relationships. And loved it. We built our business, and I did the hiring and firing, managed the office, got really involved in just competing against ourselves, being the best that we could possibly be. Hired a business coach, revamped our website. Obviously, I lean a little to the technical side. I really enjoy that, and I love marketing. I did want to be a marketing major at Tech, but my dad told me, the internet had just been created, and I needed a more secure job. So ended up going that direction. And then got to do marketing and technology with Triangle Realty. So it was really fun. And I was just going down the road, probably working way too much, and kind of, like I tell people, to summarize it, I ran into the government and heavily engaged. That's really my why. I engaged locally, and I saw that it was really broken. And from that point on, I was like, okay, we're still gonna follow up with all of this, but I'm taking this upstream. So joined some state coalitions, got heavily involved in the Republican Party of Texas, became a precinct chair, a county delegate, went to our state convention. That year it was in Houston. Highly encourage everybody to do that. It's an amazing experience. I just love it. We vote. I know you know, Dan, because you attend, but we vote at our convention by yelling in a room. It's very Texan. It's very rowdy. I absolutely enjoyed the whole experience. There's actually a convention before the convention is what I call it, when they go down there and you testify like you do in Austin for a bill, And we are deciding what planks will become part of the Republican Party of Texas platform, which is really important because this is the information that we put forth to our legislators for all the legislators that ran on the Republican Party ticket. That's what we want them to achieve this session, or in general. It's grown so large now that they pick the top legislative priorities, is what they're called, or LPs. And so last session, I think there were 12. This session, there were 8 things that they wanted our legislators to accomplish. So that's really important for all Republicans in Texas to know what the LPs are each session and what your legislator is doing to help achieve those goals. But back to my story and my why. I'm getting there. So this session, I say this session, it's already 2024, 2023, from January to May, which was our regular session, I was asked to be on 2 legislative priority subcommittees for the Republican Party of Texas. I don't think the right hand talked to the left hand. I don't think they knew they asked me to be on 2. It was probably one too many because it's a lot of work. But I was on 2, and then of course I was in another coalition. It was this one was Texas Ed 911. So January through May, I had at least 3 meetings a week where we would just read bills. And as you know, Dan, there's so many bills that are filed in the Texas House. It grows every year. There was over 11,000 this year. It's incredible. And so we would just read bills. I mean, it's just so intensive. And then, we have to make a decision. Are we for or against? If we're against, how can we try to kill that bill as the party? If we're for, what do we need to do to make it better? And let's start talking to our legislators and advocating for these bills. And so during that process, I really saw what was happening in the Texas House. First of all, we would call down to Austin, and a lot of these legislators, it's hard to get to them. You can get a meeting lots of times if you're an SREC, a state Republican executive committee member, or part of this, subcommittee for an LP, but it's still challenging. They're busy. Many times you get their staffers on the phone. Many times you don't get the COS, the chief of staff. You get someone younger, and here we are telling them, for instance, why we need to protect the family. And most of the time, they're not married and don't have children, and they kind of just want to take your message and move on. So it's super frustrating trying to communicate with them. And then secondly, I really, really saw what's happening in the Texas House. And, the Senate is not perfect, but the Texas House of Representatives is being run by our speaker. And this is the consensus throughout Texas. Our Speaker of the House is Dade Phelan. He gets an enormous amount of money, and he gives that money to both Democrats and to Republicans. And he puts those people in powerful committee chair positions. And when you're a committee chair, you can kill a bill. You can never let it have a hearing. You can never schedule it to get out. I mean, all sorts of things. And so he's empowered all these people, and they're indebted to him. And there's many ways you can kill a bill: through a committee, through calendars, point of order, POI. But when you see, which we did, the number of wonderful, not perfect, but really great legislation that was put forth this session, and then the number of those that were killed or never even got a hearing. We'll even start there. I was sick to my stomach. I couldn't let it go. I mean, I was sick. I could not sleep. I couldn't let it go. I was so upset. And I would wake up every morning and I would think to myself, our Texas is not going to be for our children what it was for us. I'm not even talking about grandchildren. I'm talking about children, and I'm talking in a few short years. We are not winning in Texas. We are not leading in Texas. And somebody has to stand up and do something. And if I tell people, they say, why are you doing this? And if you sit around frustrated and say someone ought to do something about this, it is wrong. It's not right. It's not who we are as Texans. If you say that long enough, it just might be you. It just might be you. And so I even say that to everybody listening today. You can do things here locally. If something's not right and it's corrupt or it's not functioning as the people intended, I encourage people to stand up, get involved, rally support, bring awareness to what's going on, and let's make a difference, because I really feel the wheels are falling off the bus. And we have to stand up and take back our state and our nation. And as you know, Dan, so goes Texas, so goes the nation. They are after us. There's a target on our back here. That's my why. I'll stop there.
So you said Phelan gets all this money. Where's he get all this money?
Exceptional question. All sorts of different sources. A big contributor to him is TLR, Texas Lawsuit Reform. And it's funny you asked that question because I just a minute ago was trying to catch up on some of my campaign emails, and I get I had no idea, but when you run for office, they start sending you all sorts of stuff, trying to take your money to do all these different marketing, approaches. And there's one I was receiving that just kind of gives updates on what's happening in different House districts around Texas. And it was talking specifically about which one of these House members had received money from TLR. And it had a list of about 8 because they had just started. It was on this last campaign report that was just due and then published. And Representative Smithy had received some money from TLR. And, just because someone writes you a check, you don't have to deposit it. So I just thought that was really interesting because that group, any grassroots person in Texas who is involved in the legislation knows that TLR is not good. They are not working forward or towards the Republican Party of Texas priorities at all. In fact, they're working contrary to them most of the time. So this group is not a friend of Texas. It's not a friend of mine. Unfortunately, I just have to be honest. And here's another thing, Dan. I just want to say up front, there is so much that is not being said up here in our district. And I applaud you for having this podcast and putting forth energy and effort and your time. And I see all of this equipment around me, how much money and time you were spending trying to communicate to the Texas Panhandle and educate them on what's going on here in Texas. Because I feel like we're, as my friend down in Rockwell says, we're in Siberia up here. That's how she feels about us in the Panhandle because we're so far away to her. But I do feel there's some truth to that, as in we do not get the information up here, whether it's our media or I'm not going to point the finger at any one thing, but I feel like that is one thing I really want to bring to this position is I want to educate. I want to highly increase our communication throughout the district and have more people involved, really engage our local leaders and be very organized and thoughtful, and let's work together to make a difference. But educating them on what is happening down at the Texas House and with our legislation and legislators, because there's a disconnect. And even with certain bills that are being talked about in the media and on local publications, they're not being forthcoming with all the information. It's not all being put out there. Let's have honest discussions and lay it all out and be truthful. And that is something I will do and I will bring to House District 86.
Well, I just believe if you get the information out to the voters that they'll make a good decision. I trust the voters 100%.
Absolutely. And as you know, and this is something else I really want to say, I very much understand this is not what Jamie wants to do or what Dan wants to do. This is, I am applying for a job and I work for the people. So I have to listen to the people and do what District 86 wants and what their needs are. So, yes.
Well, we only have 3 state representatives that represent the Panhandle. And it's a huge area, right? All the way from Midland, Odessa area, to Dalhart, to Lipscomb. Mm-hmm. That's not very many people. But in Central Texas, you can have 3 state reps in the same county. Right? So the people that we select to represent us up here are very important. How do you answer the question? I hear this from a lot of voters. How do we know that? Because it seems like we elect people who say they're conservative and they say all the good things people want to hear, but when they get to Austin, they change. Mm-hmm. How do we know you wouldn't change?
That's a really good question. How can I tell you that I'm not going to change? Well, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to change, and I'm going to tell you that I want to bring forth a level of accountability and transparency that the Panhandle has never seen before. And I have lots of ideas on how to do that. But I want to hold, not only do I want to be completely honest about and transparent about how I vote, what my grades are with all these scorecards, everything that I do. I have lots of ideas, but I want to also do it for everyone else in our area.
Well, I think what happens to people, just an observation, they mean well, but they don't really have they don't have their own money. So they run for office. Here come the consultants. Here come the PACs, and they donate to them. The campaign consultants run the campaign for them. And so all of a sudden they're compromised. Once that happens, that person's compromised.
Okay, so I think this is an interesting question. So first of all, I don't bend. I'm not going to bend and bow down to anybody. I'm not here to start a new career. I'm not here to go down in Austin and have fun and go out and whatever they all do down there or make new friends. I've got plenty of friends. I am here to do a job. I am here to make Texas a better place because I am very concerned. I want people to feel the heat. I want them to see me on fire to make Texas a better place and to represent the Panhandle, because our needs are different from Austin, Houston, Dallas. They are. And so, go back to local control. But as far as bending, I will tell you, you can look at all these. There's a bunch of different scorecards out there that rate legislators, and they all have their own priorities. But you can look at a legislator when they start. That's usually the highest score they ever have, and from there it trickles down. The longer they're there, the worse their score, because they become compromised. I mean, you're exactly right.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is the system broken.
Well, first of all, we need term limits. That's on my platform. I feel that's super important. And
well, we've talked about that since the beginning of time, but how can you get that done when the incumbents are not going to allow it? And the Democrats, you'd have to have the Democrats to help you get rid of it, and it's not going to happen.
Okay, here's what I want to say to that question. And this is with everything that's going on in the Texas House.
I mean, we have them. They're called elections.
Okay, that's true. That's very true. But to get any good legislation, we have to have the majority. And everybody says, oh, Jamie, we have a Republican governor. We have a Republican House. I would tell you that we have in the Texas House, we have our Democrats. We have our far right, staunch conservatives. And then we have what I call the mushy middle. And the mushy middle is where the problem is. The mushy middle is swinging over and voting with the Dems, and then it's all fallen. It's gone. That's where we are today. But because of everything that's happening with our border, federally, with the Biden administration, honestly, the Paxton impeachment, whether you're for or against, it brought this new level of awareness to how dysfunctional the Texas House of Representatives is. And I think it's waking up people who are frustrated. It's waking up people. And so just like I am challenging a very long-term incumbent in the House, there is people like me all across Texas challenging the mushy middle incumbents. And I am excited about the momentum and the support that are behind these candidates. And I really think we are going to flip a bunch of these Texas House seats, and we're going to have a true conservative House of Representatives in the next year. I mean, that needs to be our prayer. And I ask people, not just here, but all over Texas, to get behind these new folks. We need fresh blood in there. We need real change. And to have that, we have to have a true majority of conservatives.
So when you go to Austin, what is your main 2 or 3 priorities? Issue-wise?
I think that's a great question. So first of all, when you hire these campaign folks, what's your platform going to be? And we have these long discussions about what are the 3, and they tell you it needs to be 3. It needs to be 3 points that you put on your card. Well, I finally ended up with 4. I wanted way more, but so it's kind of funny. You put forth these things, but at the end of the day, I want people to know that 2 things. One, I am going to try to achieve what is put forth by House District 86. And I'm going to come back to that in a second. And then secondly, I will try to achieve the Republican Party of Texas legislative priorities. And honestly, the whole plank is what we need to try to accomplish, not just the, 6 or 8.
Just put it in one bill, pass it, and be done.
They've limited what they put forth because our party wasn't getting anything done, so they've had to shrink down these LPs. But those are the two things that anybody runs on the Republican ticket should be trying to achieve: our party's goals, and then what your district needs are. Right? That's who you represent. So obviously, I have some things in my mind that I would want, but those are secondary to what the people want and what the party wants or needs.
So, you had a debate the other night. What were the main things they kept bringing up?
Oh,
education.
Yes.
And, the big thing is, because of the special sessions, there's a big fight over vouchers and school choice and parental choice. Nobody cares about the kids, right?
Well, I very much care about the children and our educators, and so I'm glad you brought all this up.
I guess what I'm saying is, when I hear I don't hear anybody talking about what's best for the children and learning.
Right.
It's about a political issue and who's right on how to do it. So,
are you talking about the school choice, the voucher ESA issue?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. I love this platform because I'd like to lay it all out there. So Representative Smithy lives, it's been our representative up here in the Texas Panhandle, mainly rural schools. That's what the district is made up of. The whole community usually, is surrounded around the school. And he's always been pro-public education and he's been against vouchers and ESAs. He's been pro-public education. And so right before Thanksgiving, he voted against the amendment that to strip vouchers out of this ESA. It was really an ESA bill, but everybody's calling it
ESA is Education Savings Account.
Educational Savings Account, correct. And
it's not a service dog.
No, it's not.
Or service animal.
Yeah. And so this was a huge flip for him. And it was called the Ramey Amendment, I believe. But, he voted against it, where Forprice and Ken King voted for it. So Ken King and Forprice kept with their traditional, pro-public ed against ESA vouchers. And Smithy flipped, which was really kind of surprising. He'd always voted the other way. So that was really shocking. And I'm sure, and I've talked to many public educators that are super disappointed in him, super frustrated. I talked to a superintendent yesterday that said he was highly displeased. He'd actually called him before that and told him to vote just the other way. So I was kind of shocked he did that, but within 72 hours of voting that way, he and 50 some odd other Republicans got the endorsement of the governor. As you know, the governor is on a mission to get school choice passed. He didn't get it done. We had 4 special sessions this year, plus our regular, and he did not make that happen in Texas.
So you would be against school choice?
I am for Texas public education, and I am against these ESA and voucher bills. And I want to really explain this and flesh it out, because I think it's really important for people to understand. First of all, I want to say that, when I told you I was on those legislative priority subcommittees, well, we were still meeting all the way through the 4 special session, because under one of them, which was parental rights, school choice fell under that LP. So we read through the House ESA voucher bill, the one that Smithy voted against the Ramey Amendment on. And it was about if I remember right, about 184-page bill. Our committee divided it up. We went through it thoroughly and had, in-depth conversations about it. And here's just a couple of things I want to point out about that bill before I go into why, in general, I'm against school choice. But on that particular bill, and here's what I want to say. People want to ask you a question and say, are you for or against? It's not always that cut and dry. Yes, it is, because I'm going to tell you high level in a second why I'm against them. But I want to tell you, we always have to read the bill. We always have to read the bill. What is inside the bill? Because let me tell you, they put all sorts of stuff. So let's talk about a couple of things that were in this bill. So number one, it was an enormous amount of money, redonkulous how much that they were going to spend just so much pork in it. Here's just one example. It was giving $10 million to the McDonald Observatory in Alpine, Texas. The first thing probably crossing your mind is, what does that have to do with ESAs or education at all? Nothing. It has nothing. It was just giving them money. Just giving them money. That is just one example of how it was just writing a check to something else in Texas. Number two, and I think this is really important, it gave communities and schools, this is a group in Texas called Communities in Schools, $150 million. Now, you know, I have a website called TexansWakeUp.com where I started researching lots of things in the education realm before I launched this campaign. And one of the groups that we researched in Texas was Communities in Schools. They have a pledge on their website to DEI, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, which is a vein of critical race theory. They also have a member of the National Planned Parenthood. She's a member of National Planned Parenthood board member. She's on their board. I could go on and on. It is a group that we do not want to push through the doors of any Texas public school. They have offices all over Texas. Thank goodness up here in the Panhandle we don't have one. The closest one to us is in Lubbock, Texas. Now, if that bill would have passed, they would have been fully funded, and I'm sure the next place they would have opened an office would be Amarillo, Texas. I mean, I think that would be a no-brainer. So I would never vote for any bill that put diversity, equity, inclusion in Texas public schools, number one, and gave him $150 million to do it. Another point that was bad about that bill, and I think this is something that most Texans do not understand at all, is Texas does not have enough money for every child to have a choice. So in this bill, which was full of spending money, by the way, but there was only enough funds. There's a cap on funds for choice. There was only enough funds for about less than 50,000. We'll say that's for sure a safe number. I think it's between 25 and 45,000, but less than 50,000 kids to receive educational savings account, to go to a different school. So there are 5.4 million children in Texas public schools. So this is a minute number that would actually have a choice. I don't think many Texans understand that. And then here's the other thing. As conservatives, we should never put government in the position to pick winners and losers. And that is exactly what we're doing. How are they going to pick these kids, Dan? There were some provisions in the bill for children with disabilities or, economically disadvantaged, some things like that, dyslexia, to get them first. But then there's, just some that would go out to any child. And again, are they going to pick your kid? Or are they going to pick my kid? Right? So, it's just crazy. And then here's another point I want to make is that these bills go against the Republican Party of Texas legislative priority, which was no strings attached school choice. So people want to forget that part, but at the convention, many people fought hard to put that no strings attached in there before the word school choice. And so what does that really mean, no strings attached? It means, as Texans, we don't want the government hooking their claws into these private schools just like they have their hooks into Texas public schools, right? And that's no strings, no hooks is what it means. And these bills have that. They are requiring them to be a certain certified school. The kids still have to take a test. And many people would tell you that's one of the major flaws in Texas public education is we are adhering to this STAR test and everything is focused on that, right? Because funding and all these things are behind it. So again, that was not the priority of Texas.
And then you got the federal government.
And then you've got the federal government. Yes. So this bill, not only, it was bad on many different levels. So let's go back to why in general I'm against school choice. Any way that you look at it, this is a growing government. It is expanding the reach of government. I didn't talk about that bill. Okay, I forgot this one little part. I'll throw it in real quick. But basically, there would be a whole new division, if you will, that would basically manage all this money, manage the accounts, and they would pick the vendors that would do this. And, so again, it's just more money, more bureaucracy. Yes, exactly. So we are expanding government exponentially.
Yeah, we should be shrinking.
And we should be shrinking it. Thank you. So again, and listen, I like to debate. I can sit here and debate why we need it. I understand children at Leander ISD. I know what's going on at Austin ISD. I know Houston. I get it. I understand what these parents are going through, but this is not the solution. And Here's the deal. At the end of the day, I'm not a quitter. Let's fix what's in front of us. Why can't we take care of Texas public education? It is not too far gone in any school that we can't make it right. We just need strong leadership, good legislators to pass strong legislation, and we can do this. I feel good about it.
Why couldn't you have a pilot program to try different things in different areas and see what works instead of trying to have one size fits all across the state? To me, the counties should be the ones that pick it up and try to do different things and see what works, because Amarillo is different than, Potter County is different than Castro County or Brazoria County or Midland County. They're different sizes. They have different demographics. They have different backgrounds. So why don't you let the county commissioners in those counties make these decisions?
Or I would even say, the school board becoming much more involved, which is already a big job.
And along with the school boards.
Yes.
But I don't understand why school districts cross county lines. They didn't used to.
Interesting. I hadn't even really looked into that a lot. But I'm all about local control. Yeah. It's one of my 4 planks on my platform. I very much believe in it. I believe that what happens in Travis County doesn't work in Vega, Texas, but yet we're still mandated to do all those things. Yep. And here's the kicker, with no funds to go along with it.
How much what is the state budget? Do you know?
So this is really interesting. Hold on to your socks right here. So this year, our budget in Texas increased by over $50 billion with a B, $50 billion. If you can even imagine, it went from $250 billion to over $300 billion. So if you look at that, if you take that number,
320 some billion or something.
Yes, and so $56 billion divided by the 30 million Texans we have, that's over $1,800 per person. So Dan, for a family of 4, we're looking at well over $7,000 that they increased the budget. We are spending out of control in Texas, and I tell you what, I was so mad watching this live because, make sure everybody knows that they have our legislative sessions is live, the House and the Senate. You can watch everything that's happening right there on the Texas floor via live video stream, which is really cool. You can watch it from your recliner. And when they were voting on this, they just all sit there quietly. There's only a few of them that go up to the mic and try to fight the spending. And the rest of them just hush it up, go back to their chairs. Some of them are even up there saying hi to their kids on their microphone. And these are our legislators. I mean, it makes me angry. This is our money. Well,
to me, we just need to reconfigure how we do things. I mean, I would get rid of property taxes. I don't think we need them. And go to a sales tax on real estate like anything else you buy. And then the legislature appropriates per student. And then the students are free to go where they want and you're done. That eliminates all kinds of problems.
I want to talk about property. I'm glad you brought that up because I want to talk about property taxes just for a second. So when people say the term eliminate property tax, there's lots of different meanings for that, and it depends on where you are in Texas.
Only one.
But it depends on where you are in Texas. I learned this. Okay, I'll just say this. There is debt that we have. They take our property taxes. We send a portion to the state. They use that monies to pay the M&O for local ISDs all across the state of Texas, maintenance and operations. At some point in time, we took in less than we needed to pay these schools, so they borrowed. So we have debt at the state level. We have a lot of debt at the state level. Just for that purpose, to pay on this maintenance and operations on schools. So when people say eliminate the property taxes, what they want to do is they want to pay down that debt so that we can get rid of it. So we're not paying the state so much money to give back to the local ISDs. And so, there's different estimates on there, but you can go to the Huffines Institute, which is Don Huffines, who ran for governor last time against Abbott. He has some great articles that explain it really, really well. But his idea is, obviously, we limit what we're spending. It's just like balancing your checkbook.
My point is that's not going to happen. You have to force the issue by just stopping. It's like cancer. cut the oxygen off, and the cancer will die.
Well, people, we have to be disciplined. We have to be disciplined. But what needs to happen is, honestly, we need to stop our spending and not let it increase, and we need to pay down that debt. But let me finish this because it's important. We had a surplus in our budget this year, and true conservatives were wanting us to take that money and pay down this debt, the debt that the state has, so that. What?
But they didn't.
I know.
That's my point. They're not going to, and
unless we can get enough.
It's the legislature that creates all the problems because we are electing people that don't do what they say they're going to do.
I know. I'm with you. I can't do anything else except for run for office, and here I am.
You have to get brutal. You have to get tough, and make it to where they can't do that.
Yeah.
And you cut the money off.
But back on property taxes, if people vote locally to increase their taxes to buy anything, that's fine because the people have voted on it, and I'm okay with that. What we're talking about when we say
they're not doing that, Potter County went around the voters for parking garage and $60 million, a $74 million courts building that probably wasn't needed, that they could have totally renovated for less than $17 million and made it brand new.
Are you talking about the Emerald City Council?
No, the county commissioners.
Well,
the city council, the voters knew about it because Alex Fairley sued them, right? And that brought awareness. But the voters weren't aware of what was going on because we basically have no media anymore.
I agree with you 100%.
But the county has done worse, and nobody knows that they've done this, and they don't care because they think the voters are stupid.
I don't think they think the voters are stupid. I don't think anybody has ill intentions. I think it's easy to spend money. Hey, I like to spend money too. I like nice things, but I also know how to balance my budget in being conservative when I need to. And so it's up to us. It's up to we the people to hold all our elected officials accountable. And that includes me if you elect me. And so I feel like Amarillo is waking up. I feel like Texas is waking up. I feel like our nation is on the edge of a cliff, and we're fixing to step out into the abyss unless we make some changes. And I know we're not all there, Dan, but things like this podcast that you are doing, people publishing websites, people going to school board meetings more than they ever have before in our communities.
Yeah. But we have to get back to a secure, tangible, verifiable voting system. I think because people are not voting like they used to, and because they don't trust the system. And to me, that's the most fundamental thing, because your vote is your voice.
I'm going to say like 6 weeks ago, it's longer than that. Then I got the app about 3 months ago, probably. I probably would have said, I don't know if I really agree completely with that. But launching this campaign, my campaign team advised me to purchase this door knocking app. And it's just this really cool thing where, you can log into a neighborhood and it's got all the data loaded in there. And so it's registered Republicans that have voted in the last two of the four generals or primaries, right? So these are voting conservatives. What is shocking to me,
how many of them? How
many houses are not on there? So they're either Democrats or they don't vote.
Or how many are on there that tell you they never voted?
Oh, well, I haven't had that. I mean, if they're on there, it's right. I feel like the data's good. But it's shocking how many houses are not on there. Like you go around, and it's also shocking when you pull up to a neighborhood and a friend lives there and they're not on the list. And it's disappointing. It's heartbreaking. And it just makes you I feel like everybody should help a candidate door knock and look at this data, because it's alarming. Here's another thing I want to mention that's alarming. You'll go up to a house of people or just in general, house after house after house when I've been door knocking, and mom and dad, conservative, because they'll give them a label, conservative. The kid who's 21, 23, whatever, they're in college, they voted at least once, it'll say slightly liberal.
Yeah, but that's not real. See, I have a big problem with all that, because I think a lot of that data is wrong.
You do.
They're using logarithms to figure this out, and they say, because they're Hispanic and 20 years old, they're probably liberal.
Well,
that's not true.
I don't know. I'm not going to argue with on the term, but I will. But I think it's it's truthful on if they're not on there.
But if they went
If they
to
either
Walmart
don't vote or they're registered Dems.
and bought a gun, they're automatically cast as a conservative.
I don't know how they calculate that, but my point is that we think we live and we do live in an overall conservative area, but it's alarming how many people either don't vote or lean or left. We have to engage voters up here. We have just the Randall County GOP, the Potter County GOP. We've got to do a better job, and I'm not complaining at you. I'm just saying we've all got to do a better job to get conservatives.
People have to vote.
People have
they
to
have
vote.
to be informed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then they have to vote for who they think will best represent them.
Yes.
And make their own decision. I don't ever try to tell anybody how to vote, but I'm going to try to give them the information so they can make a decision.
I agree.
That's all I can do.
It's hard to argue with truth.
To me, my opinion doesn't matter. It's their opinion that matters.
And
that's how a republic works.
And I feel confident in the people. I mean, people care up here. They care. They're just busy. It's like everybody else. They're trying to go to work, go to the grocery store, get dinner on the table, and do it all over
again. They're
again.
trying to pay their taxes.
Yeah.
It's the cost of government has gotten out of control, and it affects everything.
I've had so many people. Door knocking is good because you people will lay it all out on you. And yes, a lot of people are complaining about their taxes, just all the things in general. But it's great to hear stories.
So how are you going to get the term limits bill through?
We try. Well, first of all, what I said a minute ago, we have to have the numbers. If we don't have the numbers, we can't do it. I would like to answer the second question that people ask me when I bring up term limits. They say, well, what do you think it should be, Jamie? I'm open. I don't have a hard number that I'm set on. I'm open to discussion. If we got anything across the finish line, it would be good. I always refer to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has 12 years with the House and Senate combined. So you can serve it all in the House, all in the Senate, or do a combination of 12 max, though. Is that too long? It's over a decade. Is it not long enough? I don't know, but I'm sure it would be a huge debate if we ever put something forward. But
well, to me, I think we're looking at the wrong problem. If you solve the problem that we have in our election system, which is the PACs, the big moneyed interests, then all these problems, I think, disappear. Because to me, if you don't live in the district, you shouldn't be able to contribute or be involved in that campaign, period. If you can't vote, you shouldn't be able to contribute. So if you don't live in 86, you shouldn't be able to contribute money. If you don't live in 87, you shouldn't be able to contribute to a candidate. And state Senate, state of Texas, and nationally, same thing. You live in Singapore, you shouldn't be able to influence our elections.
Okay, I get it across the
ponds. If you can't vote, and there shouldn't be any PACs.
But then my dad couldn't contribute to my campaign because he lives in McCullough County.
But he could contribute to somebody that is running in there. I just think that would solve a lot of problems and bring it back local. Because the problem I see is you have all this money coming in from downstate, even in races up here, and it's and then the local people, they may be really good people, but they can't compete with that money. Mm-hmm. So then they get drowned out by PAC money from TLR or whoever.
Since you brought that up, I want to go ahead and be transparent. I have not taken $1 from any PAC to date. Now there are some good PACs out there. There's lots of that are
a lot of
values
them start out good. Like TLR used to be a good organization, but it's flipped, right? It's not what it used to be. It's been taken over and changed. Their whole mission's changed.
Well, that was probably before I started paying attention to politics heavily.
Right, so before you were born.
Maybe so. All I know is who they contribute to now, and they're the players that I personally would like to see them retire and move on.
Now, the other thing you said the other night in the debate that kind of piqued my interest was you said you were going to be a full-time representative.
Correct.
But isn't the Texas legislature designed to be a citizens legislature where they wanted people that had their own careers and jobs, and they meet 140 days every 2 years with the idea that person goes back to their community, works in their community, which helps better represent that community?
True. First of all, I'll say to address, what I've been doing. So I am a licensed Texas realtor. I went inactive a couple of years ago so that I could be free to move about the country and do whatever I wanted and work on.
Why would you do that? Why would you put your license inactive? You want to keep that.
Well, not really.
It's not that easy to get anymore. I would think you'd want to keep it.
Oh, it's not that hard to get. It's not that hard to get. And it's not that hard to.
But it's time that you have to go through if you ever wanted to renew it.
Yeah, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to fix Texas. And
well, you never know. When
I am on a mission. This is where my heart is.
Legislature down there wants to buy a fancy house in Austin. You could sell it to them.
I'll tell my husband, and he can work on that. I feel passionate about this. I feel called to do it, and I think anybody that's ever had a calling, you know what it's like. And I've never been called before in my life. I grew up in the Baptist church. Anybody that grew up Baptist knows that everybody comes down there on Sunday and gives their testimony. I never had a testimony until now. I never felt called by the Lord to step up and make a difference. Now, he didn't tell me I was going to win this seat. He didn't. He said, Jamie, get up and do something. Get up and do something. And so every day that's what I try to do. And it's led me to where I am right here today with you. And it'll be up to him where it takes me. But when you have that feeling inside of you, you can't let it go. You can't go back to whatever it was that you were doing.
So what do you think the primary role of a state representative is?
Well, you're a servant to the people. You are serving. It's civil service.
So you're kind of like an ombudsman between the voters and the state government.
Ombudsman. Yeah. And we like that term because that was something we were trying to get forth in Texas Public Schools, an ombudsman. But I really...
You're an advocate for your local community.
I'm a voice.
Your
I'm a voice.
Individual voters. Mm-hmm. If they have a problem with state government, highway department, whatever, then your office steps in and tries to help resolve the issue.
Absolutely. Tries to facilitate in any way we possibly can. Tries to understand the problem. Mm-hmm. What's the solution? How can we get there? Absolutely.
So it's not just reading and filing bills.
Oh no. I think you're here, and I think you're still involved in the community. And I have thoroughly enjoyed traveling around District 86. There's sweet people in these rural districts and in Randall County too, but it's so fun to travel and meet all these people and made so many connections and friends. Really enjoyed it and can plan to continue to enjoy it. I just feel a passion for rural folks. That's the way I was raised. I think it teaches your children something, particularly with the ag background, having responsibility. Children really need three things. They want to feel loved, they want to be safe, and they need some accountability and responsibility. And I feel like if you're raised in a rural community, whether you live on a farm and ranch or not, but it's instilled more into the public education, into the culture. Not that you can't have that in a bigger place, but it's really found in our rural areas, and so I love that. I love seeing it
because kids growing up on a farm or a ranch, they have to be responsible. You don't know anything but responsibility. You have to take care of things, and bad things happen if you don't.
It's funny because that you say those words. I feel like I've told you what to tell me. I've prepped you what to say, but part of my campaign speeches from the beginning. Because I launched my campaign really early. I launched it back in May. And looking back, I might not have launched it so early, knowing how much work this is. But one thing it's part of my speech that I say, my father ingrained in my brother and I is take care of what you got. And lots of times that ended with take care of what you got because we don't have the money to buy a new one. And that was just his message through our lives, whether it meant, you're pulling a trailer and you need to pay attention so you don't run into something and tear something up that costs money, or let's take care of the land. We've been given this. My dad's a real big advocate for being a great steward of the land and making it better. So yeah, I really believe that.
Well, a lot of people believe that farmers and ranchers want to destroy the land and that therefore the state should regulate things like water. What do you think?
Water, tricky issue. It's really hard because I'm a huge advocate for property rights, and I believe if you buy that property, that it is yours. I don't think that we should force people into anything. It's their land. You own it. At the same time, we have to be conscious of what's happening in our community and in our area, and we are very much on the verge of running out of water in different areas within the Texas Panhandle. I mean, as a realtor, don't you have your real estate license?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you did. Yeah, as all of us know, he's a realtor too. We are all aware of different communities around Amarillo that are really close to running out of water. And we know there's certain places that you drill, you don't get water. And JT and I actually had dinner, it's probably been a month ago now, with the Currys. They own Curry Drilling. And we were all having this conversation, and he was just talking about how he really felt led to bring more education to the Texas Panhandle about conservation efforts that people throughout the United States are doing in different communities, and how we need to bring that here, whether it's catching water off of our roofs or whether it's when developers are going and building developments outside of city limits, instead of, every little lot drilling a well, we have like a community water system. So there's one well, and they're actually like charged for the water that they're using, but it's cents, but it makes you aware of how much water you're using, number one, and we're conserving overall, and then it's just a better system. People are they're not just going to turn on their sprinklers and let it run forever, because they are getting billed for it. So,
yeah, but I mean, those people that hold residential houses, the amount of water that they use is de minimis compared to what one guy with a couple of circles watering corn uses. He's putting that on an acre feet, right? One guy running a couple pivots is going to use more water in a day than the entire city of Amarillo, right?
I don't know the numbers, but I would think
water,
not than the entire city of Amarillo.
Well, the average household is going to use about 100 gallons of water a day.
They use a lot of water. They do use a lot of water.
But a farmer pumping that water on their corn is using a tremendous amount of water. It's measured in acre feet, which is a lot. I forgot the formula in my head, but it's a lot of water.
Well,
but my point is, can we run out of water? Where does it go?
Where does the water go?
How can you you can't destroy water. You can't it moves around maybe. But where does it go? You have the hydrologic cycle.
Our aquifers are definitely depleting. I mean, everybody knows that. They've been lowering even in Central Texas.
I've measured mine, and it's the same exact level as it was in 1982.
Okay, well, maybe you're in a really good area. But
so my point is, the geologists don't even know how the aquifers are recharged. Right? And so you stop irrigating for a while, they come back. But they don't even know where it's coming from. Well, it's like oil. In the 1970s, I remember when I was a kid, they kept saying the big deal was we're going to run out of oil, and the world's going to come to an end. Right? So we're going to have to move to alcohol, produce corn and turn it into alcohol. Back then it turned into ethanol, and then they blended it with gasoline. But my point is it a true thing, or is it something the government has made up to try to control our property? Just like climate change.
I do think
climate has always changed.
Okay, well,
here's
the fact.
Around. We used to be underwater.
Okay, let me speak. There are communities in Amarillo that are close. Their water has dropped. They're close to running out of water from all their wells.
Solve that?
How does the state solve it?
How does the government fix that?
Well, it's an interesting question that you just stated that way. Is it the government's problem to fix it? I don't know, right? We're independent Texans, Americans. Maybe we need to be more.
Is your dad going to run his well dry to where he's pumping dust?
My dad's not.
And then run to the government for a handout? I don't think so.
No, but I think there are
He's
things.
going to be a
Let
good
me talk,
steward
Dan.
of his water.
Let me talk.
Well, you've been talking for a long time. It's my turn.
There are things that we can do legislatively to bring about education, and there are things we can do to incentivize people to take steps towards being more conservative with the resources that we have. I'm not necessarily I believe in property rights, and strongly. I'm not for us putting mandates on property owners. I'm for let's educate, because as a body, we all care about turning on the faucet and us having water up here in the Panhandle. So let's educate our community and work together.
Yeah, I'm just trying to ask a question. So you think the farmers out there running the pivots, providing the corn to provide the food, are not educated enough to know how to use their water?
Dang. I did not say that. You said that.
Well, you said they
Here is what
educated.
I think. Here is what I think. I think there are conservation efforts that we can really look at that people are doing in other parts of the nation, and we can have people implement those in development, in their own personal home, in their farm, in their ranch, in their whatever, and have them be incentivized, somehow for doing that, right? That's good legislation to me, I think.
It's costing people to buy water. I would think it should be an individual choice on how they use their resources.
Here's something I want to tell you about. So my parents, grew up in Central Texas, and funny where my parents are. So they have some storage units that they actually sold, but storage units on one side of the highway. So they have a lot of metal roofs over there, lots of square feet of roofs. And then their home is over here, which is also a metal roof. So they catch all the water. My dad has a little calculation, so many square feet, so many inches of rain equals this many gallons of water. And he has a very large, I think it's maybe a 30,000 gallon tank, captures that water and then pumps it back up to his house. So my mom and dad's home only has rainwater, and they filter it before it comes in the house. But it is amazing how it feels. Like when you take a shower,
Soft water.
it feels good. It tastes good.
We used to call them cisterns.
Right. And then they also don't have all that buildup that's all in my shower that all of us ladies, you have to scrub on to get all the deposits off. My mom has none of that. It looks like they just put her shower in, and she's had it for a decade. Mm-hmm. So I just think and there's an expense to that. I think roughly a metal roof is maybe 20% more than a composite. The tank, when my dad bought it, I think he paid maybe $14,000 for it. I think something like that now would be, I don't know, 20, 25 more, a lot more. They've gone up a lot. So it's not cheap to do this, but you look at all the government buildings and places in town that we could capture. I just know when it rains in Amarillo, there's a river running down all of our roads in town. It's a lot of water. And if we capture some of this water off of roofs and stuff. Now, overall, again, it's a small amount.
I guess what I'm
compared
saying,
back to the.
So that should be a government mandated thing that we do.
No, I didn't say that at all.
Okay. It should be a choice.
It should be a choice, always. But
it is a choice. Right?
As
your parents chose to do that, right?
True, they did.
They weren't forced to do it.
Well, also the water's really expensive in their community.
So the market worked. Right?
Well, they could do it, but they love. I don't know. They're independent minded. Maybe that's where I get it. They just wanted to do it.
Well, I think the same way. I'm looking at doing some stuff but I'm doing it as a backup system, so. But to me, I don't want the government telling me what to do. And I think if the government tells you to do it, then that's going to be a problem.
No, I think you give it the option to people always. You're not making them. You give them the option. But education is good too. Like I would be pretty excited to go attend some of those conventions that Shane was talking about, where they're, Arizona, where they really are conscious of their resources and, trying to save their water, really.
Well, I think there's actually a way that, and I don't know the details. I was going to talk to some people about this out of Africa, but you can actually create a system where when the dew point gets right, it will condense the water on your building and suck it out of the air. And that's what they do in desert communities.
Yes. Okay.
And actually, that's how you survive in a desert. If you'll dig a hole and put a piece of plastic over the hole, the morning you'll have water.
So there's actually I found this online the other day, a little contraption. They sell you this box and it does that. It condenses, it gets that moisture. And I think you can only get like a water bottle a day of moisture.
It depends how much the humidity is.
Yes. And this works better in humid areas. They tell you that on the deal if you're going to purchase one. But it's very intriguing. It's very interesting, to look at these things that people are doing.
So we're not going to run out of water. We can suck it right out of the air.
Caroline Fairley brought up something interesting at the debate the other day, the salination process. And, I haven't dug deep into that. I don't know how close we are to figuring that out, trying to convert water. I don't know, but that's interesting. The whole world is thinking about ways, to get there. So, I think it's important. I think it's something we need to look at in the Panhandle.
Water's the most important thing there is. Without it, nothing lives.
This is true.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the voters while you're here, and why they should choose you over your opponent?
Well, you touched on it. Let's finish with that point about being full-time. As far as I know, when Representative Smithy comes back home, he still is working at his law firm. He's an attorney. I would be doing this full-time. And by full-time, I've stepped away from our real estate company. When I stepped down, I hired my replacement and completely stepped away. And so sometimes I want to get back involved. My husband's like, no, you're not. So, but no, this is takes all of my time other than educating my child in the mornings. This is taking all of my time. And so I think that would be one differentiator. Another would be that I want to be much more aggressive. I'm a voter too here in Randall County, and I am frustrated that our representation is not voting more conservatively. I plan to vote much more conservatively, and the proof will be in the pudding and all these legislative scorecards. And then I want somebody who uses their platform to advocate for our conservative positions on all the things. And I feel like for the most part, he's quiet. I mean, like I said, did I already say this? He didn't have social media till about 2 months ago, which is actually incredible that a Texas legislator didn't have social media to communicate with. It's such a tool. So I want to talk about the border. I want to talk about all the issues that are going on in Texas and educate House District 86 so that we know what's going on. I want to be a voice to get people to go and vote, a voice to get people to understand, to get them to go register so that we can have more our votes, so that we can get our legislators elected all throughout the state, not just here in the 86. It's so important that we bring awareness to all these issues. So that's another point. And then I want people to know that I am passionate about this. I feel driven, and I am not perfect. I'm full of flaws. I'm full of sin. I'm full of imperfection, but my heart is in it, and I will devote my time, my energy, my mind to this as much as I can. And I say it's full time because it's going to take me a hot minute to dig into all these issues and understand. I have so much to learn. On my platform, I have local control, and I really believe that. I want to have different groups in different areas throughout the 86 where we pull together community members and elected officials, and let's all work together and say, okay, hey, you guys are all over this area. What are your issues? Let's talk about what's happening in Dallam County. Let's talk about what's happening in Armstrong County and Randall. What are your problems? And y'all compare notes. You tell me what the issues are. Let's write them down, line them out, prioritize them. Then let's start writing the legislation to fix it. And let's get it done early so we can throw it out to different people so they can shoot holes in it and say, what's wrong with it? What did we miss? Has someone else done this before already and put something forth that didn't get passed? Why? And then if we finally get to the point where we have something solid, then let's start garnering support for it before the session even starts. There's no reason why we can't do that.
Yep.
So I that's gonna be a full-time job right there. So that's, a little daunting. I've never done that before, but I feel confident, and I feel confident because I have faith in our community and in our leaders. And I know that I'm good at networking, good at pulling people together, and that's what this is going to be.
Don't forget Hartley County.
Oh, I haven't forgotten.
So how many counties do you represent?
7.
7 counties.
Dallam, Hartley, Oldham, of course Randall, and you really have to carry Randall County. It's so much bigger.
Yeah, that's most of your voters, right?
Most of the voters, but not that the others are not important. But Dev Smith, Parmer, and then on over to Armstrong, Claude.
So it's kind of shaped like a boot.
That's what I say. That's funny you say that. It's a boot, so we can kick it into high gear.
Well, we want to commend you for throwing your hat in the ring. I know it takes a lot of courage to run for public office, putting yourself out there for all the criticisms that people could throw at you. So you've got to be kind of a tough person to even consider it. So we commend you for that. And good luck out there on the campaign trail. And do you have a website?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, it's Jamie, JAMIEFOR, Texans, TEXANS.com.
JamieForTexans.com.
Yes, and you can go on there and see my endorsements. I've got some PACs, some elected leaders locally and then throughout the state, and then I just have citizen endorsements. And so you can, if you believe in what I'm fighting for and what I've said and you're passionate about it, you can personally endorse me as a citizen. Of course, you can make a contribution to my campaign. And then there's also a section that has events where I'll be next. Definitely check that out. And there's a map of House District 86. And if you're not in that, if you don't know which district you fall into, there's a button you can click on, and it'll tell you.
Yeah, it's amazing. A lot of people don't know. Well, I see your signs in 87, right, all over.
Well,
so I'm like, you can't vote for,
But people travel all over,
Sure.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that the Potter-Randall line is the definition between 87 and 86 House District. So if you live in Randall, you're in your district you're running in, and in Potter, you're running in the 87th.
That is correct, yes. And that question came up a lot this summer when I started my campaign, and so on the back of my palm card, I put a map because that was one of the first questions. What district am I in? Or what is the 86th, though?
Well, a lot of people don't know, and they think the people running in 87 are running against the people in 86. They get it mixed up.
They do. I do want to say one other thing. Well, I could talk more, but one other thing for sure. I am very, very grateful for Representative Smithy. He has been going down to Austin and working for us tirelessly for 4 decades. For 4 decades. I mean, there is probably no one that has gone through Love Field and on into Austin more than he has, I would think. I mean, he's done the Texas Panhandle a great service, and I am grateful for that. He was working before I even, when my kids were babies on up until, when I wasn't paying attention to politics at all. And so, I feel I've been a little tough on him. I feel like I've just been honest and transparent, but I want people to know that I am thankful for him, and I do have a great deal of respect for him. I just want more. I want more, and I feel called.
You have a different style.
I would say our styles are different, yes, but I want more out of my legislator, and I wasn't seeing it, and so here I am. I stepped up. So I want people to know.
Voters will have a choice in 86.
They will, and they haven't had a choice on the ballot in 86. Only 2 times, I believe that's correct, in the last 40 years. So.
Yeah, that's kind of the big race, and the same in 87. We got four competent candidates, that are all running for an open seat. So that should bring the voters out, I hope.
I hope so.
They'll choose the one that they think will best represent them. I trust the voters.
I do too.
Make a good decision.
It's exciting.
Yep. So we just want people that are going to represent the Panhandle. The problem I see with the downstate they tend to want to use the Panhandle as their junkyard. So they put all the stuff that they don't allow down there and dump it up here. So we have to be cognizant of what they're up to.
We have to be vigilant, yes.
Yeah. All right, Jamie. Well, thanks for coming by and good luck on the trail.
Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.